Welcome at the Things Conference. We're back with a great guest to do the interview with. Who are you and what do you do?
Oh, my name is Johan Stokking. I am a tech lead and co-founder of the Things Network. So what I do is we build the stuff, the network, the routing services, but we also do a lot of community work and we do private networks. And I myself mostly involved on the technical side.
So you started this about 3 years ago or something like that?
Yeah.
So what happened in these 3 years from a technological point of view?
So indeed, when we learned about the technology, we learned about it at a meetup in Amsterdam, and we learned that KPN was deploying a national LoRaWAN network, and we learned that we could do it ourselves because it's unlicensed spectrum. And so what we did is we downloaded the specifications. It was just a PDF. It was the first version of LoRaWAN. And I started building the backend, so the simple version that would only support maybe 20% of the specification, but at least the bare minimum to route messages, at least in one direction. And we deployed that online, and we invited people to connect their gateways to that server instance. And we didn't have a name yet. We didn't have domain names or anything, nothing registered. And we installed our own gateway. So yeah, the technology really started there with a very, very simple first version. Yeah.
And how did it develop from there to where you are now?
Yeah, so that was version 0, and because we didn't even want to put a version 1 on it, it was very simple. And now we are working on version 3, so there are 2 versions in between. And yeah, it was the design decisions that we made were really based on use and of how people were using LoRaWAN in general, availability of devices. So we saw in the beginning very simple devices that would only send data, and later on we found more and more devices on the market that would also receive data, and that also use cases where you want to send data directly to devices at any time. For example, to turn on off and on lights, for example, street lights. And so our technology really had to follow that demand, and we also, at the same time, we had public installations where we had people in Australia using our network, and if we would only offer the technology from here, from Amsterdam, from one data center, then the latency would be too high for the traffic to go first to Europe and back. So we had to distribute it. And so there were very different reasons and factors that played a role in shaping the architecture and requiring us to start twice from scratch and to see really, okay, what do we need, where are we, how is it being used? And so we identified, various ways that people are using the network as a technology.
So what is in the latest version? What is new? What is good?
Yeah. So first, just the functionality is we are now supporting the latest version of LoRaWAN, which is released just a few months ago. And that means that new devices that support this new version will work automatically also on our network. We support the 3 different device classes in LoRaWAN. It's a bit technical, but it's devices that sleep most of the time and they send a message whenever they want. Devices that wake up on an interval, so every few minutes or every hour to listen for data. And devices that are continuously listening, so that, for example, the street lights that you can turn on and off at any time. But also we make it, apart from the functionality, we also make the whole package way easier to deploy. So while our current version needs the whole afternoon to set up and 20 different microservices, our new version is going to run just one program, basically, that you can run on your laptop, and that's the whole stack, just for development. And that is because we saw that our stack is not only being used in the public network, in our public community network, but also in commercially operated public networks. So even national operators can use our technology in their stack, but also private networks like if you have a vineyard, for example, where you want to monitor the irrigation, you may just want to have a private network just for that farm. And also LoRaWAN development. So people that are building new devices, they need a controlled environment, not a public network, because they really need to see what the device is doing. And from single gateway, almost like home soldering use cases, where you develop a new solution, that software that is exactly the same software as that we are using in the public network with thousands of gateways. And so that whole spectrum is quite broad, and our current stack only serves a small portion of that spectrum.
So what are your expectations of this new device service you're offering?
Yeah, so I think on the public network we are already quite set, also with our current version. So people that are using the public network, they will see new functionality. But the biggest changes are for companies and also people, individuals that want to set up their own network. So it will be way more easier to set up that network, a private network, because you can do it, in a very little time. But I think the biggest impact will be in this new version is because of the fact that we are going to support peering between private and public network, and that means that you can exchange traffic. So, for example, if you build one of our customers, for example, on the private network side is Deutsche Bahn, and they want to place gateways on train stations in Germany. And they have their use cases for that, but they need to own the infrastructure. It's their buildings, their use cases, so they can't use our public network because we don't provide any guarantees on the public network. So they have their private network, but at the same time, they want to contribute to our public network. So all the traffic that they receive from their own sensors stays in their private network, but all the traffic that they receive from the public network will be offloaded to the public network. And the other way around works as well. So data that's received on the public network that is actually for the Berlin train station will be sent to the Deutsche Bahn private cluster. So that exchange allows for not even making the public network bigger, of course, because it's gonna we are growing in the public network, but also connecting all those private networks around it and creating a lot of coverage and network capacity.
I must. What comes to mind is that this must come from these ideas come from the way you're structured, because you have a unique way of how you organize and how you reach or how you attack the market. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So when Wink and I started, we had our freelance projects on the side. So we were not looking for raising money or a business model in the first place. So we started with the Things Network Foundation, which is a Dutch registered non-profit foundation, and that is where we operate the public network. And later we spoke to users who were using the public network, and who said, yeah, but I need a service level agreement. I need to be sure that this network works. I can place my own gateways, which I can see and I can turn them on. I can provide connectivity, but they are connected to a service that is out of my control. So we thought, okay, well, you can use our stack for that as well. It's not made for it, but you can do it. And so we started a business around that. And so we also have a commercial entity at the Things Industries, where we employ the team, but also where we provide these services to businesses. And the way the foundation and the commercial entity, how it interacts, is there is no legal relationship. It's not that one is owned by the other. But the way it works is that all the common stuff that our business customers want us to build in the solution are added to the stack, and we can spend a lot of time on development thanks to our customers, and we contribute that to the open source network as well. So 60-70% of our source code today is open source, And with our new version, even more will be open source because we are opening up some of our projects that we kept private. And that is to really support the open source community while we really focus on those service level agreements with our private customers. The ecosystem is the same. So the technology that people are using is the same. It's very familiar. So people can start on a public network and switch to private networks. People can also switch from private to public. And now that we enable peering, the gateway capacity is also shared across private and public networks. And because the private networks use an open source stack, and it's fully open source, you don't have to go through the things industries. You can also set it up yourself. And I always compare it with, for example, Apache Web Server is also an open source product, but you have a lot of commercial web hosting companies that also run Apache, but they add convenience, SLA, maybe additional services, and that's also what we do, but the core is still open source, and you can also do it yourself.
I think that it's a great approach, and I think it's really working because you're growing like hell with your services and your installments and everything. A last question. I mean, this was version 3 you just brought to the market. There will be a new conference next year probably as well because this was highly successful. So maybe version 4, and what will be in it?
We have been working towards version 3 already for a year at least, thinking about what should be in there. We've been working on it concretely since August, design and implementation. I think we are now able to put everything that we want in version 3. So there's nothing on my wish list that we can't fit in version 3. But version 3 will also be ongoing development. So it's not that the first version that we publish is it. There will be version 3.9, 3.16. So that's also how we see versioning. So our major version is a new wave of products. I think a new major version, version 4, it's very hard to speculate, but I think we would also not only bridge and peer LoRaWAN networks, but we would also look into other wireless IoT technologies, such as can we, for example, bridge with Bluetooth networks as well. Connectionless Bluetooth 5, for example, allows for connectionless messaging, where you don't need to actively pair with a device like traditional Bluetooth, but you can actually send messages without setting up a pairing, which is very much like how LoRa actually works. So we are also looking into that, but that's really future for us. We are very committed to LoRaWAN, and it would be only complementary to what we are doing.
All right. Thank you very much, and we'll see next year where you're at and what you've developed in version 3. Whatever. So thank you very much. Thank you for watching. We have many more videos on our YouTube channel with many more interesting guests that have been here on the Things Conference. So watch them all.